friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie and today I have my whiteboard ready to go. So let's plan my winter reading. Okay, so for those of you who may not know, this is my TBR board and I typically will put out 3 months of planned reading. And I'll write it out and just kind of, it keeps me honest and keeps me focused. Though, not always. Like, my reading does not necessarily, it's not beholden to this board, but at least this gives me an idea of when I go to plan my reading, what did I have the intention of reading, and it just makes sure that I have some sort of organization to my TBR. So we're going to take a look at some of the books that I own that have been on my radar for winter, and then take a look at my library list to see what else I want to pull and see if we can curate 3 months worth of reading. My winter reading is going to start with December 2022 and then do January 2023 and February 2023. So there are a couple different sections that I have my currently owned books broken into, which is my immediate TBR, which would be for December, and then a couple books that I have planned already for early 2023, and then some books that I would like to read in the near future. I just don't really know exactly where I want to put them. It is a little hard for me because I want to be a seasonal reader, and so I want to read winter themed books in the winter, but I actually really don't mind what season I read things in. I will read just about anything, any time of year. So I'm trying to do this, and really get in the winter mood, but it might not happen. We might just end up reading whatever. But at least I'm trying to start with a theme. So here is my stack of owned books that are on my immediate TBR. So first off, I have the final book in the series of unfortunate events, the reread that I've been doing for all of 2022. I am finally finishing this series. I've read 1 book per month, and the last one will finish out the series in December, and that is called The End. So I have been reading this series throughout the year, but I kind of feel like it doesn't always make it on my TBR board. So, and I usually read these with the audiobook, and the audiobook is 4 hours. Yeah, maybe even less. So, usually pretty quick, and they don't really take up space on my TBR board. Next up, we have Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I have been wanting to read this for a long time. I've read 2 other Bachmans. I've read Anxious People and A Man Called Ove, and also one of his novellas. So this one I have been saving until winter rolled back around to read, and this is a top priority for December. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my board now. So Beartown, firmly in the December category. Next up, we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So I am not going to lie, I am a little bit nervous about this. I remember I used to own this book forever ago, and I think I tried to read it, and maybe I didn't try seriously enough. It didn't really work out, but a lot of booktubers have really enjoyed this recently, and I want to give it another try. And Elias, who absolutely adores this book and this author, recommended that we read this book at Christmas time. So that is why I'm putting it on my December TBR. Night Circus. There we go. December. And then we have A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. This is a fantasy. I think it's kind of a little bit cozy. It's about a magical world in which each of these floating islands in the sky have different climates, and this one takes place in a wintry kingdom. And I have just heard absolutely nothing but amazing praise for this book, and it feels so cozy and magical and wonderful. And I ended up completely impulsively purchasing this book, so we gotta read it. And it is a bit long, but yeah, it's 450 pages, and I'm hoping that it moves quickly. I do want to read this, so I will try my best to make this a priority for December. Then we have a book that is carrying over from my November TBR because I just don't think that I can get to it. That is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. So this is a fantasy novel that I have heard really great things about, and the thing about this is that I bought this at the Barnes & Noble sale after Christmas last year. So this has been sitting on my shelf, and I have not made a priority to pick it up. And fantasy magic feels like it's a fun thing to read in winter. I don't really know why, but I'm interested in reading this, and I need to do a better job of getting to the books that I bought, which is why I have this book, and I also have A Winter's Promise, and like realistically, I don't know if I can get to both of them unless they're like super amazing and I'm flying through them. But like, part of me is thinking that I probably should prioritize this more in December than this, because I have 2 more months of winter that I could read this in, and this has been sitting on my shelf for a year. So it feels like this should be the priority. I'm going to put both of them on my December TBR and just really work hard to get them both done. And finally, on my immediate high priority TBR, we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is a dark academia that I also impulsively decided to purchase because it just looked right up my alley. And I'm very happy that soon, very, very soon, I will have the audiobook because I saw it's ready for me at the library. So I kind of want to do a part reading the physical copy because I did buy it, and then part audiobook. So this, I think, is pretty realistic. I'm going to be able to get through this because I do have the audiobook, and I am excited to read it. This is a dark academia, and I'm continuing on my dark academia journey because I have now this and 2 other dark academia books that I own, so I gotta read them. December is like, it's filling up right now, and I haven't even added any books from the library, so. Also, what I need to add to this is my book club reads, which sometimes my book club doesn't get it like exactly 1 book per month. Sometimes it's just like every 4 weeks we have a new book. So the December one is Night of the Living Rez, which forgive me, I'm not sure of who that author is, but it is about a Native American reservation, and I believe that the main character, I think it is kind of like a part satirical horror, but I'm actually not sure, but I do know that was the one that was chosen, so I am adding that as well. But that one actually doesn't have to be completed in December, so it's kind of just sitting up there for now. Okay, now we're moving into January, February, which I don't have as concretely decided as December, so let's just talk out some things. First up, the 2 that I want to talk about are books that I bought the entire series at once, and my plan is that I'm going to read each book in the series in each quarter of 2023, which means that I have these 2 books in the first quarter of 2023. The first of those being The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. So this is an extremely popular fantasy series. I mean, everyone who reads this loves it, and I am so excited to finally sink my teeth into it. My boyfriend and I are actually going to buddy read this series together. So, like I said, I did actually buy all 3 of them together because they were on sale, and I just really know that I'm going to love this. And that's saying something because I don't always love fantasy. But at the very least, I think my boyfriend will really love this, and it's just, I love owning them. There's 3 in the trilogy, which means this I am aiming to read in the first quarter, so this is a pretty high priority, but maybe not until like February or maybe even March. And the next one is a very heavy, large volume, and that is The Walking Dead Compendium Volume 1. Oh my god, this thing is so huge, and like, it's absolutely massive. It's printed on really like glossy paper. This is like, I'm not even sure how many issues this is. This is like, I don't even know how many issues this is. But yes, this is a graphic novel. This is a comic book. Well, it's not a graphic novel. It's the comics, and all the volumes of the comics. in one, and there are 4. So I actually bought all 4 of the compendium. This is the complete Walking Dead series, and I know the show just ended. Actually, on the day that I'm filming this video, The Walking Dead ended on the night before, so the show is over, even though I know they're doing a bunch of spinoffs, so like, is it really over? No, but I have never read the comics. I read the first. I actually have a very small, I bought this. This is volume 1, Days Gone By. I bought this at a Comic-Con. Because I really do love the series. I loved the show so much for a long time, but I had never gotten into the comics. So I bought the first one, and you know what? I just thought it's time I read the entirety of the comics. Yes, this was inspired by How to Train Your Gavin's video. He convinced me that it was 100% worth it to read the comics, and honestly, I am just excited to return to this series, one that was so close to my heart for so long, and I'm just so excited to get back into this world. So yeah, this thing is very, very large, and I have 3 more. So this is first quarter. Yeah, so the first quarter is January, February, March. So I think that I will be able to read this if I just kind of chip away at it. I mean, obviously, like, there's a lot of pictures, so it does move very quickly. And I think I can kind of just chip away at this over the course of the 3 months. Okay, now I have a stack of owned books that I would like to read in the near future. I just don't really know where I want to slot them in yet. First up, we have The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This will actually be a reread for me, but it was so long ago that I read this book, and I didn't feel like I was actually, not that I wasn't old enough, but I just didn't feel like I really appreciated this enough. And this takes place in a wintry, apocalyptic wasteland. So I actually tried to read this earlier in the year, like at the end of summer. And like I said, I'm normally not a mood or seasonal reader, but I did try to read this in summer and it was not working. I want to read this like in the darkest days of winter to get the full effect. So it's an option. Next book in this category is The Reader by Bernard Schlink. This is a very short book that actually one of my best friends recommended to me. He really loved it, and he knows my love for atonement, and he also knows that I love short, quick reads, and he says this is like such a fast-paced read, and you just whip through it, and it's very emotional and just very, very amazing. So he was talking about this book. I hadn't even really heard of it or didn't know what it was, and then I was at my thrift store and it was just there. Like, it was there, and it was like a sign from the universe that I had to read this book. So yeah, it's very short, and I've been told it moves so quickly. So I'm definitely like, I want to read this in January, if not even earlier. Maybe this will even be a December read. And then we have The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. Ooh, I am like so excited, but also intimidated to read this book. I love David Mitchell. He is one of my favorite authors. I absolutely loved Cloud Atlas, and I read Cloud Atlas like so fast. I read it in a day on the train, which granted I had a lot of time to read. It was like at least like a 3-hour train ride both ways, so I like just read for 6 hours. But I also just really loved it and was like just whipping through it, and that's a long book. This one, also a long book. I found this beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, stunning hardcover book at my local library thrift sale. So I got this was like $2 or something for one of my favorite authors and a hardcover. And The Bone Clocks is I believe a time-bending mystery. The thing about David Mitchell books is that I don't even want to know what they're about going in, because I just want to go in blind and just have my mind blown. So I've had this book for a couple months now, and it's like screaming at me like, you need to read this book. So I think this needs to be a January priority. Next up, we have Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is a historical fiction novel by an author, Maggie. I really like her work. I read her memoir, I Am, and wow, it was just phenomenal. We read it for my book club, and it was just one of our all-time favorite picks for our book club. And Hamnet is getting a lot of attention. I have heard nothing but praise for it. Again, impulsively decided to buy my own copy of it. So I'm eager to get to it because I know that everybody loves this book. This is a historical fiction about Shakespeare and his family when his son comes down with the Black Plague. So this is Plague, this is Shakespeare, this is literary greatness, so I've been told. So I'm looking forward to this one. And then we have In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This is another one of my dark academias that I own, and this I found thrifted. I was very excited to find a hard cover version of it. And I have this here, this is a thriller, which is not really like in the winter vibe mood, but I think that this is like very easy to get through. I think this will be a very quick read. So if I can slot it in somewhere in the next couple months, that would be really awesome, because I'm trying to just get through my list of books that I own. And I mean, this is just, it's intriguing to me. I really want to read this, and I think it'll be quick, so I'm going to try to squeeze it in there. And lastly, the last of my own books on this list, that is Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff. So I have just seen this book floating around, and it's kind of been like, again, kind of just like a sign from the universe that like I need to read this, because I've been continually intrigued by it. It's a literary fiction novel about two people in a marriage, and the relationship has some conflicts. And I really don't know that much other than that, and I kind of don't want to know more, but it has a lot of things that really intrigues me. I've heard this prose is really good, and I'm just, for some reason, like, I honestly at this point can't even explain it because I barely know what this book is about, but this book is calling to me. It's calling to me, and I hope that it's for a good reason, and I found this at my local thrift store for like $1. Anyway, I'm really interested in this book, and I would like to make it a priority. Okay, so now I have a couple books that I'm interested in that I would have to get from the library. So let's chat about those. I wrote these down, but I didn't write the authors, so I apologize. I don't know the authors of some of these books, but I'm going to put a picture of the book on the screen, which includes the author, so I apologize in advance for that. Okay, the first one is Migrations. This book definitely has winter vibes, and it is about a woman who is, I believe, a researcher, and she goes to Antarctica, or like it's either Antarctica or like the North Pole, basically, to study birds. So it's a heavy on the nature themes, but it's also about her personal growth. And this one has been catching my eye like a lot over the years, and I finally heard a really good review of it, so I'm super interested in it, and definitely fits the winter theme. Next is Reprieve. This is a book that I think we'll have to carry over from my November TBR because I don't think I'm going to be able to get to it. It is a social horror, and it involves an escape room, I think, but it deals with themes of racial tension and slight horror, so I'm super interested in it. Next, we have the horror novel No Exit. This takes place in the dead of winter on a road in Colorado, which I'm from Colorado, and I have been on those winter roads, so I can picture the setting like so clearly. And this is a horror thriller that has been recommended to me many, many times, so I'm really excited to read it. Next up, another horror novel. This one I only recently heard about. This is called Moon of the Crusted Snow, and I am really very interested and intrigued by the setting of just a barren winter frozen wasteland. Like, that setting really works for me. And that's really all I know. I know it's a horror book. I know it's set in a very cold and desolate place. and I'm interested. Next up, we have Every Heart a Doorway I believe this is by Seanan McGuire. This is a very short book. This is the first in a very long series, but the books are like very small, so it's less intimidating for me. And it's a fantasy series that a lot of people really love, and really all I know about it is that it's like kids in this like wayward children housing, and they go through a magical door and it takes them to a magical world, kind of like Narnia, but probably not like Narnia. It's been on my TBR for a while. It's just like a nice heartwarming thing, so I might put this just in the midst of all my horror, maybe, I'll put it there. Next up, we have A Castle in the Clouds, which honestly is not a book that I anticipate I'm even going to like, but that cover art is very cute, and it is about a girl who works in a hotel in the Swiss Alps, and I've been to the Swiss Alps, and there's just couldn't be a more magical place to set a story, so I'm interested, even though it's not really the kind of book I will like, but I think, just some more heartwarming stuff could probably be good for me. Next up, we have Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is a horror book, but it's like very mixed media, visual, and I saw the book at Barnes & Noble, and I was just so intrigued by it. It looks like an IKEA catalog, and there's pictures, and it's a horror story, but like with a satirical element, and it's like takes place in an IKEA, and it just seems so fun. It seems silly. It seems absolutely ridiculous, and this does not fit into the winter theme at all, but I have just been dying to read it ever since I saw it at Barnes & Noble, and I have not in the past enjoyed Grady Hendrix, but this one looks so fun. It took me like all my willpower to not buy it because I was like, just read it from the library, like it might just be gimmicky and not actually good, and then you will have spent like a bunch of money on this like really like huge hardback glossy full color images, like so I just had to like be chill, and I was like, just put it on our TBR for the next coming months, it'll be okay, but I'm really excited to read this. And finally, we're reaching the end. For some reason, the new year always makes me want to read nonfiction. I don't know what it is, and particularly essays. So I have 2 nonfiction books on my TBR. One of them is called Well, This Is Exhausting, and I believe this is an essay collection by Sophia Benoit. I think that's who it is. I'm sorry if that's wrong. This is a contemporary essay collection about, I believe, just a woman existing in the modern world as a woman, and the cover is a wine glass. And it just seems interesting. I don't know. And lastly, there is an essay collection called Under the White Sky, and this is a nonfiction scientific essay collection about the environment and our future and kind of the intersection of all of the problems that we're facing today. And it's been on my TBR for a while. It's a heavy topic that honestly makes me really sad to read about, but it's also something that I feel like we all need to be informed about. I am quite passionate about environmental issues, so I want to continue to educate myself, and that has been a highly praised essay collection, so that is on my list as well. Okay, that was a lot. Now let's get these books on the TBR board. Okay, so December is pretty much done. If there was any book that I was going to add to December, even though like just looking at what I have for December right now, which doesn't even include any library books that may like randomly come to me, I don't know. This is looking pretty packed, so not sure that I'm going to be able to do much more than that. But if there was one more that I might add to December, it would be The Reader. So I'll write it down. The thing about winter and spring for me is that in the winter, I do a lot of traveling to see family for holidays, and then in the spring, I do a lot of traveling for my job. So that means that I spend a lot of time in airports, so I can get through some books. January. All right, what are our priorities for January? Well, I have all my books laid out here. I think The Road is going to be a priority because I have owned this for so long and I've been meaning to reread it, and I would just like to get that done. I want to knock out a couple of those horror books. Maybe I'm going to do a video that's all winter-themed horror. So I think I will add No Exit and Moon of the Crusted Snow. Okay, so those three I'm actually going to make a horror video out of. Brilliant. Let's add the nonfiction essay collections, which I will read in between the horror. Oh, I did not do a good job of spacing this out. Okay. Off camera, I'm going to have to erase this and do a better job of spacing everything out. Whoops. For February, let's see here. Bone Clocks. But honestly, I'm really excited to read this. So this I would like to put in January. Yeah, I really want to read that. And, and in January, Reprieve is also a winter horror. Oh, goodness. Oh, we've got a lot of situations here. Okay, February can be A Castle in the Clouds. Okay, so I have kind of a rough plan right now. And hopefully, if I'm really good at reading in December, maybe some of these can move up and then we can open this up a little bit more. Like I said, I'm gonna remake this because February I didn't do a good job of spacing out the words. I think we have a solid plan. So to recap, my plan for December is Beartown, The Night Circus, A Winter's Promise, The Bone Shard Daughter, and If We Were Villains, and The Reader, if I can get to it. January we have The Road, Reprieve, No Exit, Moon of the Crusted Snow. Well, this is exhausting. Under a White Sky, and The Bone Clocks. In February, we have A Castle in the Clouds, Hamnet, Migrations, Fates and Furies, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and also probably a couple volumes of The Walking Dead. There you go, guys. That is my plan for this winter. I really hope I can get through all of these because just looking at this list makes me so excited. I am very hyped up about reading again. This is always what happens when I get to a new season because I just get a fresh batch of books and I'm not looking at the same words that I've been looking at for 3 months. And I'm super excited to dive into these books. Please let me know in the comments down below what your top priority reads are for this winter. And thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day and an excellent holiday season.